What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan and we are back with another Bellator preview, and this time it is for Bellator 300, their massive card going down over in San Diego, California on October 7th. You know, we've talked about Bellator over the last few weeks and you know, discussed if this is their last few cards, and I have put it on record that I sincerely hope it isn't. That even if, let's say, you know, the rumours about PFL buying them, if they are bought out by PFL, hopefully they can keep Bellator going. I think it'd be great for everyone. Hopefully they can get a TV deal. Hopefully all of that sort of stuff can happen and Bellator can keep going, or maybe even improve and get better, because honestly, as someone from Ireland, it's been very valuable, and I honestly think without Bellator over the last few years, say before PFL emerged and before One Championship maybe, I suppose, took the steps forward that they have over the last few years, Bellator were the only ones really giving us an honest second opinion, if you want to put it that way, in mixed martial arts. You saw the likes of Corey Anderson going over there and having a good career. You saw the likes of Ryan Bader, the likes of Phil Davis, Benson Henderson and others going over there and having good fights and a good career and all of that. And you saw others, you know, like the likes of Michael Chandler, likes of Eddie Alvarez, the likes of MVP, and many others, Brent Primus, who we're going to talk about here today as well, having very good careers in Bellator. And I think sometimes, you know, Bellator haven't helped themselves in certain ways with, you know, making it easy to watch them if you're outside of America, maybe down through the years, and, you know, plenty of other different things. But at the same time, I think it was mostly good, and maybe we tend to look a bit negatively in MMA at different things at times, and maybe we were a little bit unfavorable about them at times. But you know, it's one of those things, you miss it when it's gone. And I think that could be the case with Bellator, and hopefully it's not the case, but hopefully Bellator is able to stick around. But I suppose that's a discussion for another day, because we have a card to look forward to, and it is a very good card. Like, it feels like the card I was just at a couple of weeks ago in Ireland was a very good card, like up and down a very long card with a lot of fights, as is this one. Bellator 301 as well, which I'll obviously talk about in a few weeks. Also a very good card, and it feels like they're stacking all their fights, getting a lot of big names on these big cards now because of the uncertainty with which we are faced in the future, I suppose. But that, as I said, makes a very, very good card here. There's 4 title fights on this one, and they're all, in my opinion, very, very good. Let's start with the main event, Usman Nurmagomedov against Brent Primus. And I'm always fascinated by Brent Primus fights, and I have been now for years, because it's almost as if Primus at times is sneakily good, while also being like a little bit of like from a past era maybe. Like, I don't think he's the most well-rounded fighter in the world. He's obviously, you know, he's lost to Chandler, Mamedov and Shabli over the last few years. He doesn't fight that often. Yeah, but then he goes in there and he beats Benson Henderson. He beats Mansour Barnaoui and many others, and, you know, he's beaten Michael Chandler as well back in the day. And he gets those big wins regularly enough. While, as I said, not being the most well-rounded guy in the world. Now, look, he can do it all, but I don't think as well as the top level guys at lightweight in the world at the moment, where maybe that wasn't the case a few years ago. Obviously, his ground game is fantastic, just a sneaky ground game, and the way he catches people in it, and you know, he's, before you even get to like the submissions or anything like that, you know, he's go platas and neck cranks and different things on his ledger over his career. But his wrestling and his ability just to like turn the fight into his fight is very, very, very good. But against Usman Nurmagomedov, it's going to be very, very tough to do that. 17-0, 14 finishes, and it's really it's really hard to see Primus doing what he does against someone as dominant as Nurmagomedov. Like, going into the Benson Henderson fight, I was kind of saying, like, you know, that Patricky fight was good, but he was very controlled. And, you know, is there a little bit of him maybe fighting within himself? I always made this claim about Adesanya as well, that he's very good, and maybe sometimes he is so good he knows that he doesn't really have to up it to win certain fights. And it felt like that was the case in that Patricky fight a little bit. But then the Benson Henderson fight, he came out and blew him away in the first round. And, you know, he'd been blown away people before that, not on the same level, but he had been blown away people before that as well, in the first round, in the second round, and things like that. Did go to decision with when Mike Hamill, who is probably an underrated fighter as well, and who maybe is a little bit comparable to Primus in terms of maybe size and the way he approaches fights in terms of ferocity, if not game plan. I think what Usman needs to do in this fight is what every fighter really needs to do against Brent Primus, and that is just kind of control him. Don't allow him to get into those, I don't know what you call it, those funky spaces. Don't allow him to get into a jiu-jitsu battle. And even let's say the fight hits the ground, you get on top of your Usman Nurmagomedov. I think you have to be very, very controlled there. Like, don't worry too much about landing shots. Don't worry too much about the judges or anything like that. Just kind of worry about not getting caught by Brent Primus. Because at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a longer fight unless you get the finish. It's probably going to be a longer fight in that case. Just make it a longer fight. Allow it to be that longer fight. And I think that will be enough for him to kind of get the win. Like, on the feet, I think he won't have too many problems. Like, Primus will come in and he will throw his shots and he'll try to land them. But I think Nurmagomedov is longer. He's a better jab. He's a very good jab. He's a very controlled fighter. You know, people probably see the name Nurmagomedov, and maybe if you haven't watched a lot of Bellator or whatever, maybe you'll think, oh, this guy is a wrestler and an all-out wrestler like Khabib or whatever. That's not the case at all. You know, it's he can wrestle and he's good on the ground when he needs to do it, but he is more of a striker, and he's a very good striker, and he's long and you know, rangy, and uses his jab very well, as I mentioned. And that's the type of fighter he is, and that's the way I think he will win this fight. So I like Usman Nurmagomedov in this fight. I think he will get the job done, and I think it's going to be a bit of a longer fight. I could see maybe a late stoppage, third or fourth or fifth round maybe, but I do think Primus is tricky. I think he'll make it tricky, and I think Usman will respect that, to be honest. And I think in a fight where one guy who is very tricky and one guy isn't going to take big chances, that just kind of makes for a longer fight. When one guy wants the fight to kind of delve into an uncontrollable fight and the other guy wants to control it, I feel like if the guy who wants the control gets the control, again, it could turn into a bit of a longer fight. Now, could in late, it could, you know, that it could tally up, you know, the jabs and the dominance maybe throughout the fight, if he does get that. So maybe a later finish. But yeah, I like Usman in that one. The next title fight on the card is Chris Cyborg against Kat Zingano, which again is very interesting. You look at Chris Cyborg and she's 38 years of age, and I spoke about this on the top 5 fights for the month, but you look at Kat Zingano and she's 41. You'd nearly forget that Kat Zingano is actually older than her, but you know, Cyborg has been around and I suppose fighting a lot more regularly than Kat, who's faced a lot of injuries and a lot of time off. Like, if you look at Kat's record over the last, the last few years, she fought once in 23, once in 22, once in 21, once in 20. She didn't fight at all in 2019. Okay, she had a good few fights in 2018, 3, but no fight in 2017, one fight in 2016, one fight in 2015, one fight in 2014, one fight in 2013, one fight in 2012, one fight in 2011, and then we're back to her, you know, before she even went to Invicta. So that's crazy. There's only 1 year in the last 12 where she got more than one fight in. Sorry, 2 years. No, 1 year. Yeah, 1 year in the last 12. and this is going to be the second year. That's crazy. That is crazy, that amount of inactivity. And I just wonder, right, if that oddly help, because, you know, when you get to an age, a lot of the time it's a lot of the miles on you rather than the age itself. And she has had plenty of time to recover after those fights. And I wonder, is that something that will stand to you later in your career? Now, maybe I'm clutching at straws here a little bit, but that's something maybe Cyborg hasn't had down through the years. Although, I suppose recently, you know, she hasn't fought now since April 2022, you know, which may help or may hinder. I just wonder as well, though, and maybe this is defying the point I just made, but at this stage of your career, when you're 38 years of age, I used to hear Floyd Mayweather talking about it, and he goes, you know, you can fight maybe like once every 9 months, but if you're leaving it to like 15, 16, 18 months, at that age, it's very, very tough to prepare the same way you used to. Just because, you know, when the body is awaiting that kind of trauma of the camp, at 24, 25, it's grand, but at 34, 35, and 38, it's not as easy. So I think that's one possible place where you can find it. And I know Chris Cyborg has had boxing and stuff in the middle of that as well, but it's not the same as mixed martial arts, you know? I just, those two factors for me, I just wonder how they play out, right? I feel like it's a bit of a negative for Chris, and the inactivity throughout the years for Zingano, and now having 2 fights this year, might be a little bit of a positive, even though she is a little bit older, if you get me. So that's that side of it. The other side of it is the fight itself, how they're going to go. Zingano fought Ilima-Lei the last time out, and I obviously Leah's Irish, and we'll talk about her again in a while here. I watched a lot of Kat and Leah for that fight to break it down in this, and it felt like going into that fight, a lot of people were, funnily enough, people were kind of saying, oh, Leah's going to want to strike with her, Kat is going to want to take her down, and I thought kind of the opposite. Look, it played out into a fight where there was a bit of both, if we're being honest. You know, both kind of got on top of times, both, you know, won the striking at times. It was a very close fight. Literally one of those fights that came down to the last second. I think it was that cut on Leah that probably won Kat the fight in the end. If that hadn't happened, Leah probably would have won. You know, it was one of those fights. Or maybe not. Maybe it was a little bit different than the judges, but it felt that way anyway, even if it wasn't. I wonder in this fight if Kat will kind of do what I was saying going into the last one, but with a little bit maybe more of what she saw and the good parts of what she had in this fight. So let me kind of give you an example. Maybe you're fighting someone like Ilima-Lei, and she is very big and very strong, and she, you know, maybe Leah would want to use her jab and want to get the strikes going, but then try to take you down and get on top. You attack the takedown first. You get down. You get on top first. I think that's like a real mental, not necessarily mental blow to your opponent, but a positive mental move for you, right? And I think against someone like Cyborg, or say someone like Nunes or Rousey back in the day, you need that massively. Like, you need it in every fight, right? You need it in every fight, but you massively need it in fights like that. Look what happened to Zingano when she fought Rousey. It was the exact opposite of that. She went straight down in for the armbar, gone. It was seconds. It was immediate. She needs to get something positive going early against Chris Cyborg, right? And whether that is her landing strikes or finding a way to land on Chris, or whether that is her getting a big takedown early and getting on top of Chris, I think, honestly, she needs to mix it up a little bit. Like, I do think she needs to strike a bit. Usually when you're fighting Chris Cyborg, everyone's like, well, look, try to get her down, try to wear her out, try to take that power away. And like, who has actually done that? No one has done that. Like, the only person to ever beat her in recent times anyway is Amanda Nunes. Now, Zingano, or no one is Amanda Nunes, even though Zingano has a win over Amanda Nunes, if memory serves me correct. But it has to be, here it is. You have to give yourself the chance, right? You have to give yourself the chance that if Chris Cyborg isn't the Chris Cyborg of old, you're in it, right? Because there's a possibility, and not just Chris Cyborg, this can happen in any fight, right? There's a possibility you meet someone and they're not what they once were, and you're still fighting the old fighter and end up losing because you show them too much respect. There's also the chance that you don't show them that respect. You go out there and you get absolutely bulldozed and knocked down in a round, right? Which is easy for me to kind of laugh at there, but it's not an easy thing to do. It's not a nice thing to do. Make no mistake about that. But I think you have to do it to give yourself a chance. I really do. Right. Now, I'm not saying be foolish and go out there and you know, put your head on every shot Chris Cyborg is taking, but throw your shots, throw your leg kicks, throw your combinations, set up the takedown, go for it, and then wear Chris Cyborg out. Because that is a positive mental move for you, but it is a massive mental negative move for Chris Cyborg. Let's say she gets taken down after eating 4 or 5 shots on the feet and maybe not landing her own. That's how you change a fight. That's how you beat a big name, you know, a monster like a Chris Cyborg, a monster like an Amanda Nunes, a monster like a Ronda Rousey or a McGregor back in the day, or a Habib. That's how you beat him. You have to not just gain their respect, you have to take it. And I believe that's what Zingano needs to do. Now, can she do it? Maybe she can, but I do favour Chris Cyborg. I think if Chris can stop the initial couple of takedowns and she can get her striking going, I think she will. The longer the fight goes, and when I mean by that is when it goes into the latter stages of the first and into the second round, I think she'll open up, and I think it'll be a difficult fight for Kat. I do think Kat will land a good, maybe not a good few, but a couple of strikes early. I do think she will cause her a little bit of trouble early. I think she will have a good plan coming in there. But at the end of the day, I think Chris Cyborg will be able to evade it and will take over and probably get the finish maybe the second or third round. So, if you're Chris Cyborg listening to this, you're probably thinking, oh, geez, you spoke a lot about Zingano there, Shawnee. But you kind of have to when you're looking at how do you kill the queen, I suppose. But it's going to be very hard. I think Chris Cyborg is going to be a big favourite here, and I think rightly so. I think she will win this fight, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. A fight I'm fascinated by is Liz Carmouche and Ilima-Lei MacFarlane. Ilima-Lei is a fighter, right, who Bellator banked on for a good number of years. And she did a great job. You know, she beat the likes of Imre Ducati, the likes of Alejandro Lara, the likes of Valeria Turno on a very good win there with a triangle and a few more as well after that. But when she lost to Juliana Velasquez, I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of thought that was the end of her title run because of how good Velasquez is. Now, we've seen what has happened to Velasquez with Carmouche, and all credit to Carmouche for beating her twice. And I think losing to Justine Quiche afterwards for Ilima-Lei, there was talks of retirement and all of that. But the fact she's kind of clawed her way back, she's still only young enough at 33 years of age, won 2 fights in a row, I think gives her an extra boost going into this fight. I really do think so. Now, I think her game isn't, like, you see her against Velasquez and you see, like, her game isn't as modern, I think, as a lot of the female champions we see at the moment. I don't think it's close, really, to, you know, whether it is Shevchenko or Grasso or Cyborg or Kayla Harrison or Larissa Pacheco or, you know, all of them. I just don't think it's at that level. But the thing about it is, I'm not sure. I think Velasquez is a worse matchup for her than Shevchenko, or than Carmouche, sorry, even though, you know, Carmouche has beaten Velasquez twice. So to get back to a title and not find Velasquez there is probably a benefit to Ilima-Lei, you know? And I would say definitely a benefit to Ilima-Lei because, Liz is 39 years of age. She fought she was the first ever woman in the UFC cage. She's been fighting for 13, 14 years now. And I just wonder, I wonder maybe will that give Ilima-Lei maybe a little bit of heart. And I know they've trained together as well. But like Ilima-Lei's game is, she is hard. She is all heart. She goes out there, she's well-rounded with maybe the lack of a special thing, She doesn't have the Muay Thai of Shevchenko or maybe the Jiu-Jitsu of a Grasso or the power of a Cyborg or whatever it might be. But she is well-rounded. She'll stick in there and do that. And to a certain extent, Carmouche is the same. Now, as you can see by Carmouche's wins over the last while, submissions have become a big part of her game. She submitted Diana Bennett, she submitted Velasquez, and she submitted Diana Bennett again in the last fight. I just wonder if that submission attack, and it's not really a submission attack, it's actually just kind of a finishing attack, and she's done well to catch people in it. If that can be avoided by Ilima-Lei, I wonder how close this fight will be. Because we know Liz she'll buzz around the place and she'll land her shots and she will land a good few shots, but she's not exactly the biggest hitter in the world. She has, she's 8 knockouts in 19 fights, which is not bad, but it's not exactly, you're not a knockout artist. Similar, Ilima is not a knockout artist either. So And look, Ilima-Lei has good jiu-jitsu as well. So I'm not just saying, if she can avoid the jiu-jitsu. I think, she can. I think she actually can. I think that turns into like a relatively even enough fight in defeat, possibly. Right? And that's kind of what, if you're Ilima-Lei, that's what you want to turn this fight into, I think. You want to turn this into a fight where maybe I can get on top and I can win a couple of rounds there or something while avoiding the jiu-jitsu, although that's very dangerous. And then outside of that, you can turn it into a fight where, like Liz, as well as her results have gone over the last few years, she still has been losing a lot of those fights in the stand-up. And I think you can look at that and pick out a few things, like what did Velasquez do when she was winning those rounds? What did Bennett do when she was maybe winning a couple of rounds or winning stanzas in rounds? Maybe there is a chance there for Ilima-Lei. I think Liz will be a big favourite. I think a big issue for Ilima-Lei here is going to be the wrestling and the finishing, right? And I said it, and look, she needs to avoid that, and I think she can avoid it. But I think if Liz can land a few bigger shots on the feet, and kind of even if Ilima-Lei is, let's say, controlling her, which I'm not sure she's going to, right? And then she gets the takedown, and then she threatens what you just do. I think it turns into a very tough fight for Ilima-Lei at that point. Again, I think she needs to control the fight, Ilima-Lei. And if she does, she has a chance. But if she doesn't, I think it's very, very tough for her. I do think Liz Carmouche will win this. I do think she will. I can see Liz attacking the body here. I can see her attacking takedowns. And maybe that submission will be there for her again. But I'm looking forward to that. And those are the 4 title fights. I want to look at a couple of other fights here, maybe not as in great detail, but there are a few very interesting fights on it. This Davion Franklin against Slim Trabelsi fight. Davion's a guy who's obviously impressed over the last while. He beat Kazimieras last time out, but lost to Marcelo Gon before that. He beat Said Soma, who's on a good run at Bellator 274. Won the split decision there. Okay, not great, but this Slim Trabelsi, I've heard a lot about him over the last few years. He fought an Irishman, Ryan Spillane, in his second fight, and Ryan Spillane was really touted as a top guy. I think, did Ryan Spillane win the IMF gold? He was in there anyway, and he destroyed him really, and he's looked really good since, fighting in Aries and all. Slim Trabelsi is a guy you need to keep an eye on, and if he wins this, I think the sky is the limit for him. I love this fight as well between Henry Corrales and Kai Kamaka. Obviously, Kai was supposed to fight win around a month ago. That fight didn't materialise, and he's been on a good run. Won his last 2 fights in a row. Beat Adley Edwards last time out. 3 in a row for Henry Corrales as well. A lot of people, I suppose, didn't expect him maybe to go on this run. That Pavlyuchenko fight as well. He was a big underdog on that. I remember I gave him as one of my bets of the week, and he ended up winning that fight. So that's definitely a fight I'm looking forward to. I like the Ilima-Lei Joanna against Jenna Bishop fight, 5-0 Jenna Bishop. Bobby Serrano the third is on the card as well. Some of the up and comers. Grand Neal and Romero Cotton in middleweight is an interesting fight. Jesse Roberts and Cossio. Mukhamed Berkhamov against Herman Terrado is interesting. 14-1 Berkhamov, a real top prospect. In against a guy with 21 fights as well. Yagshimauradov, one of the former light heavyweight contenders, is back as well. And there's a plethora of, I suppose, the up-and-comers, Dmytrii against Justin Montalvo, and others as well. The one fight though I want to mention, Liam McCourt and Sarah McMahon, I mentioned a little bit earlier, this could very well be the number 1 contender fight now. The fact that Kat's obviously fighting Cyborg, the fact that Sinead Kavanagh lost to Sarah Collins, who, Sinead had obviously beaten Liam McCourt, so obviously a little bit ahead, but now that she's lost, I don't think Sarah Collins at 5-0 is going to get a chance against Cyborg next. So I do think the winner of this fight is going to fight Cyborg next if Bellator continues and all of that. Look, Sarah McMahon has won her last 2 in a row. Obviously, she won one going out of the UFC and beat Arlene Blinkov by unanimous decision. Liam McCourt, okay, she lost to Zingano last time out, but I don't know the UFC or Bellator even looking at that necessarily as a loss. I think and similar with the Sinead fight, they were very, very close. She beat Anna Silva in the middle of that as well after being on a great 6-fight winning streak. I think, look, with the performance she gave against Zingano, and if she was to beat Sarah McMahon, I think they will give her a title shot, and I think they might even do it in Ireland. So I think that would be massive for Bellator. It's a very tough fight for Leah McCourt. Look, I think what we've known from Leah down through the years is her judo. And her judo is very good. She's obviously very big for the weight, very strong compared to like Sarah McMahon, has Sarah fought down at 125? She's definitely not the biggest in the world anyway, but Leah's striking has improved as well. She's been fighting over in or training over in Paddy Pimblett's gym. I think was she out in Thailand as well, if I'm not mistaken? I think she was, but her striking definitely looked better the last time out. And it's something that, it looks good in the start of fights and maybe wins over the last 2. If that's something she can improve and bring on and you go throughout the whole fight with it, Leah becomes a different animal in there. And I'm excited to see if that improvement has been made, I suppose, for this one. But on the other side of it, look, Sarah McMahon, we know about her wrestling, we know about her athleticism. Look, if you're going technique for technique in terms of the wrestling, in terms of the grappling, you'd have to favour Sarah McMahon. I just wonder, will the size be an issue? Will the strength be an issue? Usually, if you're a wrestler, you have the strength advantage, but maybe she won't here. So I just wonder how that'll go. I really think, look, you probably have to favour McMahon here in terms of what she's done throughout her career, in terms of, this being her big opportunity, I suppose, to get to the very, very top. But I don't think Leah is without a chance. I think if those improvements have gone to another level, I think we could be in for a shock here, but it's a very tough test. Like, Leah's gotten a lot of tough tests over her last few fights, and without a shadow of a doubt, this is another one. So I think the takedowns from McMahon are something she always wants to go for. I think she'd be happy enough. I think against Leah, what you need to do is just kind of avoid her jab, avoid her lint, maybe work the body shot. And for Leah, you need to use that jab, use the lint, keep McMahon on the outside. Don't let her take you down. McMahon will want to get the takedown. If she does, those scrambles are going to be huge. I think, like, if Leah can get on top on the scrambles, Leah's very dangerous on top. She's a very good rear naked choke and things like that as well. But if McMahon gets on top, it's going to be a tough night for Leah. Look, McMahon, was she a former silver medal winner in the Olympics? It's going to be tough for anyone if she gets on top of you. So I'm excited to see that one. I'm looking forward to it. So we will leave it there. I'll give you my my picks for the fights again, just in case I know people get mad when I don't give my picks. I'm going for Usman to beat Primus. I'm going for Chris Cyber to win. I'm going for Bellator, and I'm going for Carmouche. I'm probably going for all the favourites there, but I do like Trabelsi against Davion Franklin. I'll go for Kamaka against Corrales as well. I think he's on the way up. I think he really is on the way up. So those are the top fights there. I'm going to toss a coin and say it's going to be a draw between Herman and Liam McCord in that one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all those fights, and hope you are too. All right, I will leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.